coming up on this week's episode of the HCA Tech Talk podcast.
Research into very high resolution three-dimensional audio that they call ambisonics. That was where he really got into working with 3D sound. And there's a lovely image that we have that we put on for training and other things where he's in his grandmother's dining room in Versailles. He's got all these speakers, 22 speakers dotted around him. Remember, first of all, we're fundamentally an R&D company. So the R&D facilities are going to be fantastic. So first thing is going to be an anechoic chamber. Okay, so 8 by 8 by 8 meter anechoic chamber, and there is, I can't really talk about it at the moment, but there's some talks of what that might be able to achieve, and it should be something pretty groundbreaking. So I'll leave that for another podcast. He took a lot of time looking at the finish of the concrete as well, because there's no sort of interior decoration as such. It is the concrete is the final finish. We're changing our focus to showcase our new hardware platform, our new product. So we've got this new product called the Altitude CI coming for CEDIA Denver.
Thinking of building your dream home cinema? Don't know where to start? Start with the HCA. At the Home Cinema Alliance, we connect homeowners with the very best in the business. Our members are trusted designers, installers and technology experts who know how to turn any room into a breathtaking cinematic experience. Whether you're building from scratch or converting a spare room, our members are here to help you every step of the way. Visit our website to find your local member at homecinemalliance.co.uk.
Hi, and welcome to the HCA Tech Talk podcast. My name is Stuart Burgess, and I'm your host for today. My guest, David from Trinov.
Hi, thanks for having me today, Stuart.
So we've done a podcast before, but before we sort of did this podcast, and it was a bit like Pulse Cinemas, HCA sort of thing. So for anybody who hasn't seen that podcast, introduce yourself, tell me who you are, who you work for, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, lovely, thanks Stuart. Yeah, so I'm David Meyerowitz from Trinnov Audio. I've been in the industry for about 12 years now, so I've done a bit of time with distribution. So I did actually work for the Midwich Group, which is obviously now part of the Pulse family, and then I moved on to manufacture with Trinnov about 6 years ago now. Yeah, so that's me.
Yeah, because I think I know when we said it before was like I think we first met with Envision when you were training me on Luxor, I think.
Yeah, probably Luxor or RTI or any of the above. Yeah.
So it's a small world, isn't it? Because we've got a podcast coming out with Capes, who was one of the founders of Pulse. And yeah, it's quite funny, isn't it? It's like, I think we said in that one, or I said on the podcast before, how people move from job to job, and then you end up finding that the person who left company A, they then go to company B, and then company B ends up joining up with company A, or you know.
We're not a big industry fundamentally, are we? You know, so yeah, things come around.
So tell us, so obviously recent times with Trinnov, we've obviously, you guys have put out waveforming.
Yep.
Which is obviously going down really well. We've got some people that are implementing it into their projects, and really nice showrooms out there. We recently met Mehmet from Ultimate Home Cinema.
Oh, fabulous, yeah.
He went out to Versailles with us, and of course he's done his little showroom stroke home cinema from here, and he's gone big down the way of waveforming, and for someone who is, this isn't his day job, knows a hell of a lot about waveforming.
Yeah, he absolutely does. He's one of those that really does read around the subject and understands the science before you get ahead to what the system can do. But yeah, I remember talking to Mehmet, a couple of years ago about the system, and so it's great to see that he's got it realised and finalised now.
Yeah, I've got to go up and see it actually, because I wouldn't mind doing a sort of like a little tour video from there and just going up and seeing him, because you know, talking to him at this thing out of Versailles, you know, he's really sort of got the bit between his teeth in getting that millimetre out of the room.
Yeah, he's definitely that character. He comes from the enthusiast part of the industry who's you know turned it around to be a sort of a secondary job for him, really, you know, designing and specifying. So yeah, he's got a lot of great knowledge out there.
I think that's quite true of our industry. I mean, like, I think how I settled on coming into this industry was I was doing another job. I sold that business to my business partner. I had a set KEF floor standards when I was living at home with mum and dad when I was 18, and managed to create a career out of it. So I think there are a lot of people who do this as a job now. Yeah. But it is also because it's something they love and their hobby.
Yeah, definitely. I came at it from a completely different angle. So I came at it from the retail perspective. So yeah, I didn't know the industry existed, and it was a fortunate advert in the local paper as it was then. No LinkedIn or anything of that nature. And I stumbled into the industry, and here I am, best part of a decade later, and loving every minute.
So that was with Envision, was it?
Yeah, that's right. So my consumer electronics retail was with the Comet Group, as it was at the time, before they went bust. Yeah. Unfortunately, so that obviously forced me to look for other things, and I stumbled across a job with a small company based on a small industrial estate in Suffolk, and we go from there. So yeah.
Excellent. So let's just do a brief history of Trinnov. Yeah. How it was sort of like formed, a little bit of its history, obviously the introduction of waveforming, and then obviously the new facilities that are opening up in Paris.
Yeah, definitely.
So for people who've not met you, people who don't know much about Trinnov or have not seen a podcast with you talking about Trinnov, I think you've done a few, included another one with me. Yeah. Give us a brief history of Trinnov and the passion and the ethos behind it.
Yeah, I will do. So we've got three main founders. Those who are more familiar with some of the content that you'll see throughout the industry will know of Arnaud Laborie. You'll have seen his face. Arnaud is our CEO. He started the company back in the early 2000s. So he was doing fundamental research into very high resolution three-dimensional audio that they call ambisonics. That was where he really got into working with 3D sound. And there's a lovely image that we have that we put on for training and other things, where he's in his grandmother's dining room in Versailles. He's got all these speakers, 22 speakers dotted around him. And it was at that point where he realized that actually creating a coherent sound between all of those speakers, even though they were identical, just placing those in different places of the room made such a profound difference on how the audio recreated within that speaker array. So his first job was to fix that, and that's where the optimizer was born. So early 2000s, we were doing OEM products for a number of manufacturers, mainly in the broadcast industry, working with the ORF in Paris, the state broadcaster. And then as we windle our way through, we started making our own products under the Trinnov brand. And yeah, getting into the sort of 2010, sort of 2015 sort of region, the Altitude 32 was born, which is our flagship product. Yeah. Still is our flagship product today. The architecture being a software updatable and a modular chassis means that it has a far superior lifespan to normal consumer electronics, which are just simply not designed in the same way. And then we move through, again, just more technology as time goes on. We're fundamentally a technology company. So moving into the realm of active acoustics, which is where waveforming came in, as you've mentioned. And really that's been a project of it's been in the market for 2 years now, and 5-6 years previous years of research into it. So yeah, that kind of brings us up to sort of where we are today, really, where we're now at the point of moving to a new headquarters. So we've got a new office being built in Paris, ground up, completely our own design. Arnaud Laborie, in the only way Arnaud can do it, literally presented a 3D render to the architect. He was like, "Yeah, here's what I want. This is let's go and make it." Yeah, he doesn't do anything by halves, Arnaud, for sure.
It must be one of the easiest jobs ever for the architect. Was like, this is what I want. Here's a 3D render on it. This is how it goes together.
Exactly.
Just get people to build it for me.
Yeah, he'd done all the research into the various different building methodologies with the concrete. When we eventually get you over to Paris, I'll get Arnaud to give you the talk on the concrete. It's a bit of an inside joke, but actually, you know, the way he's constructed the building from a sound isolation perspective is why we went with predominantly concrete. And then, you know, separating all our different demo rooms from lab spaces and all this sort of thing. And then he took a lot of time looking at the finish of the concrete as well, because there's no sort of interior decoration as such. It is the concrete is the final finish. So that, you know, was meticulously looked into, different varieties. I think I remember him saying he had something like 30 or 40 different panels, you know, sample panels that he was looking at for this particular concrete render. So yeah, he's done far more work than you would expect. Let's put it that way.
Knowing, obviously, I don't think I've ever met him, but knowing of him, it doesn't surprise me. No. You know, in the conversations we've had about Trinnov and the passion that he has for the products, you know, the formation of waveforming, you know, that original photograph that I've seen on Trinnov training before, it doesn't surprise me. It's almost like the grand designs where, you know, Kevin MacLeod turns around and goes, you know, if the client's doing the project management, you know it's going to take 6 months or a year longer and go up by about 20% in cost, because they come in and go, I need the wall moved, or I need the door there, or I need this, I need that.
Yeah,
so,
got you. Yeah, I mean, that's very much Arnaud's approach. He's hands-on with everything, and he still refers to Trinnov as the project. It's still a project for him. It's still his baby. You know, that's he's got a lot more to give for this project, and this move to a new facility is sort of stage, well, we call it internally, we call it Trinnov 3.0, so the third generation of Trinnov. So from Arnaud's grandmother's living room in Versailles, that was 1.0, the existing office we have in Paris with the team there, that's 2.0, and then moving into the future with 3.0, that's where we're headed.
So going back to the products, so you have the altitude 32, the altitude 16, amplitude 16.
And then we do have hi-fi products as well. So we have a preamp processor called the Amethyst.
And commercial products?
Yeah, so pro audio products, actually the Nova, which is our pro audio product for studios, so for you know, smaller 5.1 or smaller multi stereo studios, is actually a product that's very significant for us because it's a new generation of hardware. So that's been very significant for us. We do other multi-channel processors for Atmos studios and mixing and mastering studios as well. And then into commercial cinema as well. We do audio processors for 5.1 and 7.1 commercial theatres as well.
So on a domestic point of view, because this podcast goes out to consumers as well as professionals, as hopefully as well as everybody. So Trinnov Processing basically is the platform that processes the incoming feed from the sources, and then that gets output to the either an amplitude or a third party like Meridian or something like that. So explain the difference between the 32 and 16, really, and the benefits of using Trinnov and the optimizer, and obviously new software that I know is coming out. And
we'll touch on that in a short while. So as an essence, you know, you've got your black box. It's designed to offer so many outputs. So depending on how many speakers you need, how many subwoofers you need, we prefer to render all of the speakers individually. You can array speakers together. We prefer not to do that. So we've always been a proponent of high channel count, so a high spatial resolution of speakers. And the real sort of reasoning behind that is the more speakers you have in a three-dimensional space, the higher the resolution and the more accurate the reproduction in terms of placement of the audio, where the mixer decided I want that bullet to go from there to there. The more speakers you have, the closer it can render it to that actual position. So we've always been a proponent of that. So that's why we started with the biggest model, the Altitude 32. So that was able to utilize 32 speaker outputs. We then actually created an extension product to go up to 64 potential speaker output channels for some of the sort of more elaborate projects out there. And then we came in with the Altitude 16 sometime later, around 2018, if I remember correctly, as a sort of fixed platform that we were, I guess, trying to make more, I guess, hit a different price point to the Altitude 32. You know, you pay a premium for Trinov anyway because of our you know, we do everything ourselves. We don't rely on third parties, so it's all our own technologies. So clearly we have a huge R&D cost associated to that. But the fixed 16-channel outputs was a great step forward in bringing, you know, not a cheaper product, but a more attainable product to market at that sweet spot of sort of 16 to 20 speaker channels. Okay. That's sort of where we headed. So behind all of that, regardless of which box you use, whether it's commercial cinema or the pro audio product, is the Trinnov optimizer. That's the key. That is the what we would term the speaker room correction. You know, there is no such thing as a perfect speaker. There is no such thing as a perfect room, and you know, you need to get the best out of these systems where you have multiple speakers. You need a level of correction over the top, whether that's simply just level aligning speakers, delaying them all so the sounds reach the main listening position at the same time, or if you take it further like we do, going into what we call phase correction and impulse correction to get the perfect imaging between all of the speakers. I think we're all, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we're all fairly happy with what happens when you put two speakers in a room and you hear the voice coming from the middle of it, as what we call a stereo image. Now try and do that with 20 speakers. And that's the goal of the Trinnov optimizer, and that comes back to where Arnaud started back in his grandmother's living room.
Yeah, because I can remember you came to, I think it was Merton, and did a calibration job for us.
Yep.
It's yourself, you and Ian at the time.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
And I remember you were showing me how to do the optimizer, and this was before the Trinnov training courses. Yeah. You were showing me how to do the optimizer, and I remember I went off and did something else because, you know, was doing some other bits and pieces. And I remember you playing, I think it was a Star is Born, the classic clip that we all know inside out, still not watched the movie. And I remember walking in there and going, bloody hell, that sounds good. And it was a set of DSP 8000s, I think. And I remember you saying, that sounds amazing, the imagery on that. And you went, yeah, that's just the front right. Yeah. And just the fact of the software and the optimizer lets you just sort of go down to that finite detail to be able to, you know, calibrate each individual speaker to its, you know, its optimum. Yeah,
that's the whole thing. And, you know, again, we work in complement with passive acoustics as well. You know, it would be remiss of anybody to say that you know, the electronics can solve everything, because they just can't. You know, there's certain things that you treat in the passive domain with your acoustic treatment, whether that be you know, carpet, or whether that be absorption panels, diffusion panels, or other methods. But there's stuff that can't do. You know, you can calm down reflections with acoustic material, but you can't correct for phase with acoustic material, and that's something that electroacoustic optimization allows you to do. As you correctly said, you've got all of those tools in the toolbox, and as Trinnov, we have the most extensive set of tools in that toolbox. And you know, the whole point of the training that we offer, and you know, as you grow with your experience with the product, is learning which of those tools to utilize at what occasion. As with anything, if you throw everything at it, it's just going to sound over-processed and just unnatural. But being selective, using the tools with finite adjustment, that's the benefit you get. Yeah.
Well, I think as you say, I mean, I know our friend James, and I'm probably going to muller this, James from Home Play, said in the video we just done from him recently, he was like, you put a bad speaker in a bad room and you're going to get a bad system.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you put a good speaker in a good room and you're going to get, or a good speaker in a bad room, you're going to get an okay system. But you put a great speaker in a great room, well, you're going to get a great system. And I think a lot of people will look at the kit they're buying, like, you know, this short throw Epson we've got in front of here, or, you know, they'll buy it because that's what they want.
Sure.
But it's the importance of, and I know in a future podcast we're going to go into rooms and acoustics and things like that. And our friends Owen and Tom, they do a podcast, a home cinema design podcast, I think, which goes more into the finite detail of it, which I know you've been on.
Yeah.
Actually, the importance of a room and treating the sound in the room before there's even any equipment in the room.
It's like anything, you know. I could think of any number of analogies, whether it's cars or whether it's whatever. But
we always use cars. We love using cars.
Cars are a great analogy. You know, if you think of that Formula One car, you know, you've got the best of the best equipment. What happens when you put it on the motorway?
Yeah.
Well, you're stuck in traffic. It can only do 60, 70 miles an hour if you're lucky, especially on the M25. You take that to a racetrack that is designed to allow the car to unleash all of that performance. That's exactly the same as what you're doing with speakers and rooms and all the other stuff. So yeah, this is why, as an industry, we need system integrators and system designers, you know, to take this holistic approach to designing a audio video system, whatever that may be. If it's, you know, just a few in-ceiling speakers for background music, it doesn't mean that it needs any less care and attention, you know, to get good results.
Well, I think you take it, you know, like to architecture. You know, there's a reason an architect is an architect. Yeah. They are doing that finite detail where, yeah, I could build a wall, I could put a ceiling on, I could watch YouTube to work out how a wall and an apex of a ceiling go together, or roof to put guttering in. But the architect knows that finite detail. And I think, you know, that's where a HCA member, a CEDIA member, an integrator comes into it, where we could design it. Yeah. You know, and I know personally, you know, I'll happily design a cinema for someone who wants to do it as a DIY project. Sure. Because I've been there. I've been that kid who wants to do a DIY project.
Yeah, we should indulge that.
Yeah, and I think we should. And then we've got people you know, like Mehmet, who are, you know, doing a DIY cinema. Yeah. He's just got the knowledge and the budget to do something that he really wants to do at his own home and produce something stunning. And I think that's where, you know, a professional working together with, you know, a manufacturer like Trinnov and, you know, distributors of other products could help you put together a great cinema.
Yeah, 100%.
So with Trinnov, I know we've got new software coming out.
Yeah, we do.
I know you've just been up here recently doing Trinnov Level 2 certification, which annoyingly I had to bail from. So there's now people that are Trinnov Level 2 and I'm still Trinnov Level 1.
There's time. There's always time.
So tell us a little about the roadmap, as much as you can do, for Trinnov in respects of from the product side of it. Also, we know the showrooms, the new showroom facility in Paris is coming up. So tell us a little about the roadmap for Trinnov.
Yeah, so 2025 is a very, very significant year for Trinnov. It is a transitional year for us. We've got a lot of stuff that we want to progress forwards, but with the big focus on the new office, we have to manage our resources carefully, let's put it that way. So I mentioned to you about the Nova product. I know that's something that doesn't come into the residential market, but what's really significant about that product is the hardware architecture that it's based upon. And that for us is a new generation of hardware. So for those who aren't familiar with the makeup of a Trinnov product, it's fundamentally based around a PC. The audio signals are separate on bespoke audio boards, but all of the horsepower and computation, everything is done via the PC. That gives us enormous flexibility. You know, it's why the Altitude 32 is 10 years old and it's still arguably the market leading product by whatever specification and number you want to tick. The Nova brings us into another dimension of that, where we can reduce reliance on the PC, because now it's got a processor on board, the main audio board, that allows us to do a lot. So it has its limitations, you know, sort of 16 channels is that limitation. So going over and above that, we then recouple with a PC, but in a different way, to allow us to continue to develop these very you know, high performance, high channel count products. So we're coming up to the CEDIA US show
Yep.
Okay. I know you've mentioned that sadly you're probably not going to make it this year. But
No,
again, we'll do plenty of advertising and opportunities, webinars and other things.
Never say never.
Never say
never.
never.
I am getting serious FOMO already, and it's not even. No, I sort of looked at going and was just like, can I take it out of the business at the moment?
Sure.
And then. Yeah, I think I'm going to go all in with ISE next year, in February-ish time. So obviously, so Trinnov are going to be at CEDIA Denver.
Yeah, and we're changing the way we do things slightly. So we've done for many years now, we've done the big audio demo, and it's become a focal point of the show for a lot of home cinema specialists and dealers.
It was by far my highlight of last year. I mean, that was dialed up to 12.
Yeah,
on a 10 level scale. I mean,
we do dial it up for shows.
I can still feel the shotgun from the John Wick movie pulsing through my arteries.
Yeah, we do take it. You wouldn't listen to a movie A at that volume and B with that amount of bass. We do pump it up for the shows just to make a spectacle, but it's a very hard build for us. We partner with Officina Acustica and then our speaker manufacturer of choice for the given shows, projection, a lot of partners. But it's a 4-day build fundamentally, particularly for ISE, for only a 3-day show or 2-day show. The US is the same. It's a 4-day show, but it's a big build for us, and it's very, very expensive. Even just shipping products around the world now has got infinitely more expensive, let alone taking containers on ships, to get these things over to the US. So not that we don't want to put that budget into demonstration, but we're changing our focus to showcase our new hardware platform and our new product. So we've got this new product called the Altitude CI coming for CEDIA Denver. We'll be making all the announcements at the end of August, so hopefully by the time this podcast goes out, there'll be a bit more information in the public domain. But we're embracing sort of more modern technologies for sending audio signals, so we're moving that particular product towards an audio over IP platform. So rather than sending audio over an analog audio cable, whether that be an XLR or an RCA, whatever your cable of choice is, we're now moving those audio streams as they are now onto a network. This has a number of benefits. It also has some drawbacks, but it has a number of benefits. It takes away a lot of complexity of wiring. Trying to match all the cables together when you've got multiple amplifiers, potentially with speakers being bridged, to gain, basically putting 2 channels together to get more power. That makes the cabling quite complicated. We choose to use a DB25 connector, a serial connector on the back of the unit to save space.
Okay.
So breaking out those into XLRs and then back in and out, it can get complicated. So audio over IP really solves that as an issue, because it's now just a virtual matrix. You've got all these points going from point A to point B, and you direct it via a piece of software. That makes things incredibly flexible, incredibly scalable, but it also means that we can tailor the project for just the number of output channels we need, and we can easily add more if needed. If the customer decides, actually, let's go for waveforming, let's do it, let's add a few more subwoofers, we can just add channels via a license and enable those audio streams. So you're not paying for things that you don't need, and that's the real benefit of the technology. As I mentioned, it does have some drawbacks. It's not designed to be the highest quality connection. That analog connection is still a higher quality, or can be a higher quality, with different qualities of source content. But that convenience factor, simplified wiring and scalability is something that audio over IP is being greatly adopted by. So yeah, we're showcasing this product. It's very exciting. We've been doing audio over IP for a number of years in the pro audio market, so we're not new to this, but we've waited until now to release a product when it's right for the market. So that's what we're doing.
So So with this technology, obviously that's been in the pro market more.
Oh,
yeah,
for a number of years.
So if we're standing looking at an AV rack,
Yep.
what would we see? So we've got the speakers coming in. Are the speakers coming in
Yep.
via a digital cable, or are they coming in via a traditional?
Could be. So the nice thing about audio over IP is that if you've got a speaker that is amplified locally,
Like a Meridian.
Yeah. Or they're a very well. They're actually an interesting example because their connection is via an Ethernet cable.
Yeah.
But it's not actually an IP connection, so it's not on a internal network as such. But in that example, yes, you are connecting effectively your active speaker to a network switch, which is quite unusual.
So a little bit like Just Add Power. So
yes,
you're
indeed.
taking you're taking your sources and you're taking your inputs and your outputs via a network switch, and then that's handling all the switching.
Yeah, it's the same analogy whether it's a matrix and a balun or a whatever scenario. It's that same sort of source and endpoint. So it is a different way of building the architecture of the project. So yeah, you'll see your same AV gear in the rack. What you may see is another network switch, which will be dedicated for this audio over IP side of the network. So yeah, we do need to, and this is where the complexities come in, because we do really need to segregate that traffic, so you don't interfere with other signals on the network, but also so that nothing else interferes with the audio stream, because there's nothing worse than audio dropping out because something else is trying to get at that bandwidth or data.
Yeah, it will sit there on its own.
Yeah, exactly. It'll just do its thing.
Mask, or as a separate entity.
Yeah.
A little bit again, like going back to your Just Add Powers and things like that, where the system, the actual network switch sits on the network, but the traffic is completely separate, so it doesn't. Okay.
Yeah, there's a number of different ways of attacking it, and something that we're promoting very heavily with the Altitude CI as a product is it has multiple network interfaces. So it means that we actually have a small network switch effectively in the back of that unit anyway.
Okay.
So in its simplest form, we can connect directly to our Amplitude 16 amplifier with its Dante audio over IP module without the need for a network switch. Okay. So we're trying to utilize this technology in the best way. So we want to make it as simple and as reliable as possible where it needs to be, but also work with the complexities. You take a super yacht as an example, where you've got limited space to put a rack. You might have a rack in the cupboard here. This might be local to the projector or the TV, whatever's powering that room, but all of the other products might be 50 meters away, in another rack location. So being able to link those via the network provides a lot of advantages and scalability there.
Well, as you said, going back to our friend James at Homeplay, the project we just did for them recently, or videoed for them, that's a townhouse in central London.
Yep.
Space is a premium, like
Absolutely,
it is in a yacht. So actually, to have a 4U, amplitude, 4U altitude with maybe a 4U amplitude, with a kaleidoscope, with an Apple TV, you're up to 15U, and 15U rack in a yacht is a lot of retail space.
It is absolutely. And again, the nice thing about utilizing an IP-based product is we don't have to have as many cards inside the unit itself. So if you open up an Altitude, there's a lot of different boards in there, and then on the left-hand side there's a stack of cards that we call the DACs. So they're converting the signal from digital to analog. They're playing their part, but now it's all done in the digital domain, so we don't have DACs any longer. So we can now make it a 2U chassis. We could even make it a 1U chassis. The Nova is a 1U chassis as an example. The Altitude CI is 2U because we've still got the PC in there for horsepower, as I mentioned to you. So it allows us to change the form factor of products as well, because we don't have to rely so heavily on the amount of boards inside the product.
So that will complement the Altitude. So
absolutely.
The 60 to the 32 will still exist.
Yep.
And that will then slot in around that, basically.
Exactly. It's the same ability just with a different topology.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's no reason why this would supersede. It doesn't offer better quality or higher performance than any of the other products. It's just another product in the stable of products that we have for different use cases, basically.
And will you see so being that these are a consumer product as well, so will you see uniformity between, so as an installer, if you jump between calibrating an altitude and then calibrating this, similar platform, still use the optimizer?
Exactly, yeah. So we've announced already our upcoming software update, which is going to completely rewrite the operating system and the user experience as well. So the user experience, the new one, the new UI is actually coming to the altitude 16 and 32 first. And then when the new product comes along, sort of November time, actually available, obviously it will be released with the new UI on as well. So yeah, if you're calibrating a Nova, an Altitude, an Ovation, which is our commercial cinema product, it's all fundamentally the same. It's just the software is tailored for that use case again, but it's all the same technology in the background.
Okay, cool. So first sightings of this is going to be CEDIA Denver, is it?
Yeah, it's going to be CEDIA US.
I want to go now. Damn you, David.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, just a week after, so just after we do the ride with Together for Cinema, we're obviously going to be down at Farnborough for the EI Live show, and we will have it down there as well. So maybe we'll hook up down there and we can explore it a bit further in person.
Well, I suppose that's actually probably, as we were saying before the pod, the big room that you've done year on year, although it's very impressive, there obviously becomes a point where you need to freshen things up a little bit, because if it's a room this year with, let's say Perlison, and next year it's a room with, say, Ascendo, there is a little bit where people go, oh, well, I saw it last year with a different speaker. So will they then go to it this year? Where obviously I know we've said before, and I've said to Peter before about, will you bring it to EI Live? And it's just like, we can't. It's just for a 2-day show, it's just so expensive.
Yes,
it needs to be it used to be an international show where you're literally going to get queues after and after, and that's not a detriment to the EI show. That's just that there isn't enough installers to warrant it in a way.
Yeah, and this is the difficulty. We want to support all of these industry shows wherever they are, locally or internationally, the best we can. But ultimately we've got to look at it from a return on investment perspective. And the international shows give us such an opportunity to address so many different partners from around the world. And showcase, a new technology. Now, when you bring a new product to market with the same technologies, just in a different form factor and format, do you need to do the same again? Can we just go through the product? There's lots of different things. And, again, we were obviously speaking before the podcast, how do you do it bigger and better for those that have been the years before? And again, it's no detriment to Officina Acustica, but, you get to a point with bass where you need concrete walls. And we can't move that room around the world any heavier than it is. It's already a full 40-foot container. To move it around. Which you were saying about the build, I know Owen and Tom helped. Yeah, they did this year. I say it last year. It's still this year, isn't it? Yeah. It's Asia helped this year. And speaking to Tom and to Owen, it was just the complexity of the build, and it gets put together in sections. So it's already been built in Italy. Oh yeah. It's not like you're taking a load of 4x2 and building a new cinema. No, there's no cutting. There's no there's a bit of swearing, but there's not much swearing. No cutting, no drilling. It all just goes together the way that it was designed. So it's the only way we've been able to do it repeatably over the years. It's been a great asset to us, and that room is going to be retired, and it's going to make it into the new headquarters. I know Maurizio wants to redo the interior finishing, which he'll do in due course, but that room is fundamentally going to be reused again. So I think, if I remember correctly, and Peter might have to correct me, but I think that might be the 15th or 14th time that room will have been rebuilt. So from a sustainability perspective, that's something that's really important as well. If we were just knocking these things down and starting them again every single year, it would be such a waste. So,
well, environmentally and physically and
exactly.
financially.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
You know, at the end of the day, you know, as a company, we've got to be seen to be, you know, environmentally friendly and obviously keep overheads, because exhibitions aren't cheap.
They are certainly not. They are certainly not. Yeah.
So who are you partnering with? Are you partnering with someone at Denver, the speaker manufacturer?
Yeah, so we're on a number of different stands. So I think we're on 7 different active demos this year. So just off the top of my head, I know we're working with Crix. I know we're working with K-Array. Oh God, it put me on the spot. I'm never going to remember them. But there's a number of different partners that we're working with. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but yeah, I know that I'm involved with the calibration of a number of different systems.
So you're sort of like becoming the kaleidoscope of the audio world in respects of every demo you go to, like ISC, everybody's running a kaleidoscope server. Okay, so that's good. And looking ahead to next year, have you got plans for ISC yet? For for anybody like me who potentially may not be or potentially be going to Denver.
Yeah.
You know, we've got February in Barcelona in 2026. We've got ISE.
Yeah.
Is there plans for ISE similar to Denver?
Yeah, we've absolutely got plans. You know, we will have our own static booth space, but we'll also be partnered with a room for that show as well. So yeah, it's everything's still to be kind of finalised on that front. We haven't even started calibrating the room yet, and I know that sounds crazy when the show is in February, but again, from what we've just been explaining, you know, the room needs to be taken apart, shipped to Barcelona, so we have to get that finished in December for it to get there in time safely, with plenty of time for February.
Well, I think it was 2024. I think it was. There was that picture of, like, I think it was Peter sitting in the middle on the laptop, and then there was literally a plethora of people, including you and Tom Delicapagni, all sitting behind him, and it was like geeks on geeks whilst this room was being calibrated.
It's exactly that.
Like everybody peering over his shoulders, not watching him do it, but watching him do it.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun with it, and you know, we all have so much experience in the partners that we work with. So yeah, it's by no means a singular Trinnov effort when it comes to the calibration. You know, we work with the speaker partner because, you know, ultimately the sonic signature of the room portrays their personality and their performance. So they've got to agree. Obviously, we want to put our spin on it with our technologies and what have you, and of course the same goes for the video and everything else as well. So yeah, it's a massive team effort. We've been very lucky to work with some wonderful partners, and yeah, we'll continue to do it just on a smaller basis, and not Trinnov as the main headline, I guess, in terms of the partner for those particular booths.
So going briefly back to the new facilities just outside Paris, what's the opening date? Have we got an opening date?
Yeah, so we're going to start moving, hopefully start moving staff around October, start of November. Of course, it's a building project, so you never know what delays may or may not come in. I'm sure Arnaud's scratching his head on a few
Arnaud
things.
might be changing.
I would be surprised if he's changing anything, but he'll be absolutely scratching his head on a few things, no doubt. There's, you know how these things go with projects. So yeah, starting to move people in sort of October, November time in terms of our staff, and then after that we've got to start populating the various different demo rooms and facilities that we're going to have there before we get you guys across for an unveiling.
And for people who haven't listened to one of these before, what are you going to have there in respects of rooms?
Yeah, got you. So, I mean, remember, first of all, we're fundamentally an R&D company.
Yeah.
So the R&D facilities are going to be fantastic. So first thing is going to be an anechoic chamber. Okay, so 8 by 8 by 8 meter anechoic chamber, and there is I can't really talk about it at the moment, but there's some talks of what that might be able to achieve, and it should be something pretty groundbreaking. So I'll leave that for another podcast. But that as a research facility, with a clipable measurement system in there, will be open to the industry as well. So as much as we want to utilize these rooms for ourselves and our own progression, we're also looking to give back as well. So there'll then be variable and active acoustic labs. various demo spaces, including a fully fledged commercial theatre, which will be a sort of auditorium, come lecture theatre, come theatrical dubbing stage, come live music venue. Wow. Very multi-purpose, but a huge space. I was in there. I mean, the RT is at about 15 seconds at the minute because it's just a big concrete box, but of course, a long way to go there. Then we'll have, training facilities. So there's sort of three. It's going to sound really elaborate now. 3 wings to the building, or 3 sections to the building. The first section is very much a training and showroom facility, looking at modern technologies. Micro LED walls, obviously projection and other solutions in there. Atmos recording studios and stereo recording studios to utilise, cross market. And then all the R&D labs, electrical labs, all that sort of thing for prototyping. The list goes on and
it's quite simple then.
Yes, quite an unambitious plan.
Yeah.
But plenty going on. And then there will be some good communal spaces, a lot of green space as well. The way Arnaud's designed it, I think he said last time I was there, you're never more than 7 meters away from some green space, whether that's a small garden area or just nature on the outside of the building. So
how many people will work there?
Yeah, so the company will grow over the next 5-10 years. Now we've got a facility we can grow into because we're bursting at the seams at the minute. We're about 64, 65 at the minute, something like that, worldwide that is. That's including our colleagues in the US and our colleague Joseph out in Taiwan. So we're aiming to double in size over the coming years. So
I think it's important. I mean, I've got a friend of mine, James, who works for Rare, which is owned by Microsoft. Yeah. And Rare, the gaming company, their facilities are in big grounds. Yep. And as he said to me before, it's great. He said because you could just go for a run at lunch, sure, or you could just go and sit outside. And I actually met the guy that designed their new gardens. It's a couple of years old now, but it is a stunning place, and I think it's just important that people that are working there could go outside to have a meeting.
Absolutely, yeah.
Get some fresh air.
And it really promotes collaboration.
Yeah.
It's we're still a small company growing, so you grow out of facilities as time goes on, but the office we're in at the moment, very limited in terms of natural light. So you go and sit in there for a meeting, and after an hour, you're desperate to go outside because it's just you're missing that natural light and what have you. So
a bit like being in here.
A little bit. But having that facility, really opens that up, and I think it'll be greater for us going forwards with collaboration. Obviously, from a training perspective, keeping all students fresh during the day. Training's hard. Training's hard to deliver and hard to receive as well. It takes a huge amount of concentration, and having an environment that's conducive to that and beneficial in that way is very important. So again, I know Arnaud's been working very, very closely with the lighting. Making sure the lighting's right, the colour of the LEDs. Again, he's learned so much about lighting as well. So it's an all-encompassing thing. Yeah. So
Trinnov lighting brand coming soon then.
Well, I would never say never. I have no idea. But
he doesn't just do something. He does something.
He does something. Absolutely. Yeah. That's Arnaud's way. So yeah.
So before we go on to the plaque in front of you and the other subject we're here to talk about, anything else you want to touch on with Trinnov? How do people get in touch with you? Look at Trinnov website address.
Yeah, so I encourage anybody to first of all actually go to our YouTube channel. So search Trinnov Audio on YouTube. My colleague Benoit has done the most fantastic job of user case studies and interviews throughout the residential, the pro audio market, and the commercial cinema market. Have a watch of some of those videos and just listen to the commonality of what people say about what the product does for them in their working environments. These are the people that are creating the content. And arguably in a professional environment, it's more important to have a cohesive system that works correctly while you're creating content. So have a look at that, and then obviously some user case studies from the residential market. We've got loads of trailers on there as well. There's a lot of really great content on there. And then if you want to dig into our technologies specifically, jump onto our website, look at our technologies page, and you can read till your heart's content about what Trinnov does.
There are some great white papers on there that are long but very...
Again, it's a scientific subject. You know, we can simplify it to a degree, and then if you go from just seeing, reading, and then you move in towards understanding, you know, that takes suddenly the scope of that document gets a lot bigger. So yeah, our audio over IP documents can be 90 plus pages as an example. So yeah, we'll have a short version, don't get me wrong, but yeah, if you want to go completely in depth, then yeah, we offer that knowledge outwards as well. And
obviously you touched on the clips. The movie shorts, which are produced by some phenomenal directors and videographers. Obviously, if you're lucky enough to have a kaleidoscope, if you're not lucky to have a kaleidoscope, then give me a shout. But if you're lucky enough to have a kaleidoscope, obviously all the movie trailers are on there. And I know from myself that, you know, I don't have a Trinnov. I just have a little system at home at the moment, still playing around with the showroom. But actually, even on a non-Trinnov based, you know, 5.2.2 system, they still sound really good. And they still, you know, just play with the acoustics of the speakers so well and show off your system.
They're all very interesting clips, and you know, as you said, they're available on the Kaleidoscope store. They're free of charge, so any you know, you can download those and play them to your heart's content. We also have the files available on the website as well. So if you have a media player or a Blu-ray player that's capable of playing back MKVs or MP4s, those sort of file formats, you can play them back on nearly anything as well. So we've tried to make them as accessible as possible. And you know, the whole premise behind them is to convey a message, convey a story through the artistic design, but also utilize the object-based audio, the Dolby Atmos audio or the DTSX or the Auro. They're available in all formats to really showcase the system's capabilities by telling that creative story. And yeah, Benoit's done a wonderful job, and I know he's got more coming. So.
Awesome. That's brilliant. Right, so let's get on to the second part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about Together for Cinema.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're both, along with another 48 riders, including the podcast co-host Simon Gregory. We're doing the London to Brighton bike ride, I can't remember the date, in September.
I've got the 16th in my head.
Let me have a look. I've literally got my calendar in front of me just to remind me. Yes, so 14th.
14th, okay.
So yeah, Sunday the 14th.
Cool.
At 9:30 a.m. I think is our release time.
It is, yeah.
We're doing 55 miles from London to Brighton for Together for Cinema. Together for Cinema is a charity that it fundamentally puts cinemas into children's hospitals, hospices. I mean, we were fortunate enough to go down to Chestnut Tree House in Arundel recently and do a video for them. And just to see the enjoyment that these rooms give to these individuals, to these children, was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a little slice of escapism, isn't it? And you know, that's what really turned me on to getting involved with the Together for Cinema, particularly on the bike ride. I love my cycling, I'm sure we'll get into that in a minute, but as an industry, being able to provide these spaces that give a sense of normality in very chaotic, potentially, lives, you know, young children, but also their families and the carers that are dealing, you know, with you know, very difficult circumstances, you know, to come together and offer solutions that give that escapism, I think is a really important thing. Having had a family member who was sadly very dependent on hospice care, I know how important it is to families and to the individuals you know, involved. So yeah, it's something I've been looking at for a long time. You know, a number of years at looking at getting involved with, but this year I've taken the jump. And
is this your first year doing it?
It is, yeah. So I'm really glad to be part of the fundraising effort. You know, to continue the work that they're doing.
Well, I think the work they're doing is brilliant. As I say, just it was funny because the Arundel project that I donated the HCA Media's time to record it, because why we do the podcast. I think a picture's worth 1,000 words and a video's worth 1,000,000.
Indeed.
And just to sit down and record, Ian talking to Alice, I think her name was, one of the staff there, and I remember my wife turning around to me and saying, this is going to be quite a difficult day, don't you? You're going to see people there who are, potentially end of life, but yeah, although there was that element, it was a really fun place.
As it should be.
You walk in there and you see, some children who that's there where they go for the day. They have disabilities of all different ilks, but to see just the excitement in their face with this room. And one of the kids uses it to watch this film. One of the kids they have to kick out of there quite often because he's playing FIFA in there all the time. Actually, I walked away from it, just sort of going with that pride of the fact that as an industry, that Ian's and the team are doing these phenomenal rooms with the sponsors and the people donating their time. So Together for Cinema is something that I know our industry's behind, and I think all of us in this industry are always looking at new ways to do it. So, but you're doing this one as your first time, but you're not just doing the ride, are you?
No.
You decided to go a little bit longer.
Yeah, so I am a keen cyclist. I use it very much for my physical and mental health. I'm very lucky to do what I do. I get to travel the world, but we all, in some way, shape or form, need to decompress. Cycling for me is that decompression. Taking that time for yourself, whether I'm cycling with my club, which I love, just a whole another group of friends, like-minded individuals that we go and ride with, or if I'm cycling just on my own, just a bit of escapism, just that time on my own. I really, really enjoy it. So yeah, there's some amazing people doing some really, incredible feats of endurance. I look at Ben Davies and I look at Chris Pinder, apologies, who's done all those marathons over the years.
Didn't Tom Daly didn't they do Red Bull Silverstone to the Red Bull Ring?
Yeah, that's it.
A few years ago.
Yeah, right over to Austria. Yeah. So yeah, and I wanted to get involved with something, a cause that I believe in, but also something that allowed me to get involved with other individuals in the industry. So I remember years ago I tried to do the Ride to Amsterdam. I think it was AV magazine at the time.
Okay.
We're doing a Ride to Amsterdam for the ISE show. So riding to the Rye, and it never managed to get put together. So I've always had that little itch in the background to do something. So yeah, I've decided that I'm going to cycle from my home in Suffolk. So I'm going to leave at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to get down to London, hopefully around 8 o'clock in the morning. So a little bit of time to spare before we set off, so we can do our photos together as the group. I'll then obviously ride with the group and hopefully spend some time with all the individuals on the course, having a chat, finding out a bit more about everybody, because I don't know everybody in the group, so that'll be fab as well.
But hopefully once you've done Suffolk to London, some of us will be able to keep up with you. The legs will hopefully be a little bit tired.
I'm sure they will be by then. So yeah, and then we'll get through the ride. Looking forward to that bit. And then the following day, so I'm going to stay over in Brighton. I did consider being a bit crazy and just turning around and going back, but actually when I thought about it, obviously the physical challenge would be crazy. That would be 280 miles in one day.
Wow.
Which I've done 230 in a day overnight riding. That was really, really challenging. So yeah, I potentially could push myself a bit further, but actually, again, talking about the cause and the group, actually spending that social time after the event and reliving all our horror stories of Ditchling Beacon and other parts of the course, that has a lot of value to it as well. So yeah, I'll stay overnight in Brighton and then I'll turn around first thing in the morning and head back to Suffolk. So yeah, that will be 280 miles over the 2 days.
Yeah, you're right, because obviously this one isn't a closed circuit where the British Heart Foundation one is.
Yeah.
So as much as you can, you are having to stop at the traffic lights. Yeah. You are having to, stay with other people. So you do I I know it's 50 this year. I think it was about 40-odd last year. You do fragment.
Yeah, of course.
And if you suffer massive cramp by going up ditchling, that'll be me. And some rando bloke is stretching your legs because you're laying on the floor nearly crying.
Yep.
Done more training this year. But yeah, when you get to Brighton, and thank you to Steve and the guys at All Trade who are putting on the post-rice drinks. On the seafront, thankfully, although it was really far after you got there, although it was literally about 800 yards. And then it's upstairs as well, which I didn't appreciate.
That will be painful.
Yeah, I did ask them to put a hoisting this year for me. But again, to get there, to have that team photo there as well, and just to have a drink and just to discuss how did you get on, where did you come, what did you do, and all of that lot. It is a great day, and I do recommend anybody who's listening to this who has the opportunity to do London to Brighton anyway. It is a brilliant event for whatever charity you're raising money for. But when you're doing it with a group of, this year 50 other riders from the industry, the buzz goes on for days, if not months.
Well,
afterwards.
that's it, and we're all there doing it for our own different reasons. We all have varying levels of fitness as well. For some people, it's going to be a huge physical challenge. So me as a more experienced rider, if I can help somebody, I think back to last year where I really wish I had done it, but it was literally the weekend I would have gotten back from CEDIA US. I remember the story of Stephen Carter from CEDIA, and he was, given his absolute all. He was the last man in, and I resonate so much with people that complete the challenge, whatever that means to them. For me, it's not a race. No. It's absolutely be there, support people if I can, and have a good time while we do it, and obviously raise much needed funds to continue the work of Together for Cinema. That for me is the nutshell.
Well, thinking if you've never done any of these type of things, it is that. I mean, I can remember doing 2011. I did my first half marathon, the Hastings Half Marathon. And it blew my mind that people were standing on the street handing out Haribo, handing out slices of oranges. And actually, even though this event isn't on closed roads, you do still find people at the top of a hill going, especially ditchling.
Oh, there'll be plenty of people cheering you on.
Yeah, cheering you on, saying, come on, you're nearly there, you know. And I think that it is just, everybody has that same mindset for whatever charity they're doing.
Yeah.
And obviously I have for you here.
Yeah.
I did go out of my way yesterday. Let's not rip this open. Let's see if I can find the actual seal. But I did pop in to see the aforementioned Ian yesterday.
Fabulous.
And we've got your shirt.
Fantastic.
Extra skinny probably, knowing you.
So
we have your nice shirt with
Wonderful.
the sponsors on it, including the HCA, thankfully.
Yeah.
And then on the back as well, more sponsors and bits and pieces like that. And then somewhere for your chocky bars and whatnot.
You need a few of them.
Yeah, so there's your shirt.
I love it. Thank you very much.
So we'll look forward to seeing you wearing that in pride.
Yes, I will be.
I'm going to stretch mine out a little bit, so you might find me in the local Sainsbury's in Hastings wearing mine.
Well, I've got a week in the US before, so this might be a bit stretched by that time anyway. So.
Actually, I did see that on the WhatsApp group the other day. People go, so how are people sort of like navigating Denver and the ride? And some of the conversations was about food, and some of the conversations was about training. And it was like, well, if you're not up to where you should be by the time Denver is,
there is. I mean, it's never too late to get a last little bit in. I will do what I can to get into maybe a little gym there if there's one at the hotel. I haven't actually checked that out yet. Just to do some last minute stuff, and I can claim that I've been at altitude training. So so that will give me something.
Like all the pro athletes.
Yeah, exactly.
Been off to some altitude training.
I'm off to altitude training camp. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Awesome. So I will put the link, the charitable link. Because I think is it 15,000.
Yeah, that's the group. That's the group target. I think from memory, I think we're about coming up on 2/3 of the way there, something like that.
Yeah,
So
I know Ian's been keeping us up to date.
Yeah,
with it.
so making really good progress. You know, of course, yeah, anything anybody can do, small or large, it all helps. So yeah, just a little plea from us there.
I know some of us. I know I'm going to try and take the 360 camera with me, just to keep my mind off of the pain of my legs.
Yeah.
I know Simon is taking his GoPro with him, and so hopefully we'll try and put something together for people to watch afterwards. Maybe a journey, maybe a beginning and middle and end, just so people can see that we actually done it.
Yeah,
we'll put our Strava links up
That's
and
it.
just show that we actually did cycle it. So, well, look, thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thank you.
We did say we'll probably do a follow-up
Yep.
next year, maybe after IC or something like that,
Yep.
to talk about the ride and Trinnov again and what's happened at Denver. And so make sure you like and subscribe. But yeah, you know, well, good luck in Denver if I don't see you.
Yeah.
And then I'll see you on the start line in September.
Yeah, only a few weeks' time. So yeah, it's come around very quickly. So yeah, thanks for your time today, Stuart. Appreciate
No worries.
it.
Thank you very much, David.
Cool.
Safe journey to Denver.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Bye.